listening to the ACT podcast. You better like my daddy's show, you creeps.
All right, welcome to the ACT podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Christian Tafoya, joined by Jolene, who's here to explain the importance of the secret lives of Mormon wives.
It is very important. It's
Why?
hot gossip right now. Because there's so much drama.
Oh, okay.
They have
Everything's drama.
Yes.
Explain this to me.
But like all of them are in trouble right now. Like one's filing for a divorce. There's a restraining order. There's a domestic violence case.
I thought Mormons weren't allowed to get divorced.
Well, you know, these Mormons are not so Mormon. They
What is this? What? I don't even know what this show is or what.
it's
If you're a guy and you're like me and you feel like you're in a vortex of insanity.
it's a very entertaining show.
Is it
about all the
popular?
drama. It's very popular. Because they're
What's it on?
they're all crazy. It's on Hulu.
Oh.
But they're all insane, and they try to be good Mormons, but not a single one is a good Mormon.
Remember when Disney was a family company?
Oh my gosh.
And I don't know. Anyway, we don't need to get into a moral lesson. Disney, but why is this so? Is it like only popular with people your age? Or is it popular with old people or what?
I think it's popular with all ages. I mean, obviously more popular with women and gays versus men.
Women and gays?
Well, yeah. The people who like reality TV and drama and all of that. We all need a little bit of that. We don't want it in our real lives, so we have to watch it on our screens.
Yeah, what's weird about that, actually you bring up an interesting thing there, is I have noticed that people who really get into that particular type of reality TV are usually horrified of confrontation in real life. Do you think there's a correlation in that?
There could be, but that could be a good thing. You don't want someone who's super confrontational.
You don't want someone who's non-confrontational either.
No.
Like who won't even stick up for themselves or...
What are you implying?
I'm just saying.
Hey,
I'm overly confrontational. I understand that. And even in my older age, I've tried to back off the confrontation. Sometimes you just need to get in there and get your hands dirty a little bit or stir the pot, as it may be.
You've gotten less confrontational.
I really
since we've been
am.
together.
But I'm like the what do you call that? The apprehensive soldier. I don't want to shoot. I'll do everything I can to not shoot, but God damn it, I will. And if you drag me into that fight, then it's all guns blazing. But
Yeah, I feel like we kind of balance each other out, though.
I
Might be too much, but
I was having a conversation with my buddy Noah the other day, and he said, I feel like you would be really good in war. And I said, well, thank you. I don't particularly want to go to war, and I wouldn't sign up for it. But if it came to my door, it's on.
yeah, you wouldn't be like a pansy and not fight back.
No,
Like a lot
I'd
of
let
people these days would.
years of hostility and aggression come out in the worst possible ways. I'd send for how I kill him, not for just killing him.
Oh my God.
That's a different subject for later. I better be careful. It's something I do want to talk about, actually, in a little bit. I don't need everybody, swarming my DMs with, or Jolene's DMs with. What kind of sicko are you engaged to?
Oh my gosh, you're just a little crazy.
Yeah, I guess so. But why are women so into this stuff? Like, are the Kardashians still a thing? What other reality shows are women ingesting?
Well, The Bachelorette has always been a popular one, but that also got canceled because of the Mormon wife girl. She had the domestic violence case like 2 years ago.
She's on both shows?
Yeah. So pretty much all these people are like getting popular from Mormon wives, but then they go and do other stuff. Like 2 of them went to Dancing with the Stars. One of them went to The Bachelorette.
Mhm.
I'm sure other people are doing other stuff. I don't know.
Do you think that watching this kind of behavior is good for your soul?
Oh, it's for sure terrible. It's terrible
you're a
TV.
Catholic, right?
But
I can throw that out.
But sometimes you just need to watch something mindless whenever it's been a hard day or week. So you just don't have to pay attention to anything.
Okay. So I like mindless stuff, right? I can get into some mindless stuff. You in particular would say, like, me liking Beavis and Butthead is mindless, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, I think I would disagree with that, you know.
Well, obviously.
I would disagree with that because I think it's actually pretty cleverly written material and whatnot like that. But okay, let's have that disagreement. It's mindless on my side and yours is mindless on the other side. I think there's a difference between what men watch as mindless entertainment and what women watch as mindless entertainment.
Oh, for sure, there's a difference.
Yeah, our stuff doesn't seep into our souls, right?
What
And
do
I'm not
you
talking
mean?
about you in particular, but there are women that act a certain way in real life, and then when you see what they watch and ingest, it all makes complete and total sense as to why they're not people that you'd want to deal with.
Well, yeah, I feel like there's two sides of that. There's like the people that like it's like their lives and too similar that they just live by it, or there's the people like me that are just like, oh,
Right.
let's watch something like this, but I'm not gonna
So there was
use
this
it.
there was this argument for the longest time. This might be a little bit ahead of your time, Jolene, but for the longest time there was an idea because, you know, most school shooters and things like that were men of a certain age and of a certain race and whatever, and they would try and blame it on music or TV or video games. And that's why the young man did what he did, right? They never took into account that young men are just generally aggressive people that need to be, you know, trained into acting like adults, things like that, that you can't take your aggression out by, you know, attacking people in horrible ways. I don't feel like that's the same with women.
Well, we've talked
I have
about
no-
that before.
I have no scientific studies of this, but like young women seem to watch other women acting crazy, and then they do seem to
I don't disagree
apply
with
that to their lives.
But I think to the point where like people are saying like the stuff you watch impacts how these school shooters or whatever turn out. I think that can be part of it, but it's obviously not like the sole thing that made them into the crazy person they are. Like it's not just war movies or like shooting or violence that causes them to do that, but
The young men.
Yeah, but it can like contribute to it. It could like push them over the edge or whatever it is.
But seeing super rich women, you know, throwing, you know, lampshades and purses
Chairs.
and chairs at people, making horribly impulsive decisions like, you know, oh, I saw my husband was masturbating, so I'm going to go fuck his best friend type of behavior.
Well, yeah, I never said it was good for the mind. It's just something to watch. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
Don't
not,
you
like,
think,
something to
though,
live by
that young
and, like,
women need
dream
something
of.
more edifying to watch? I could boil this down to even somebody like, you know, you've even talked to me about this. You know, there's a growing popularity of a certain podcast host who young women really seem to be gravitating towards. And she's only known for making baseless, insane claims. And her name's Candace Owens. And even you have told me that you know people that have grown very fond of Candace in her insanity, which is essentially just reality TV at this point, right? She's
Yeah.
a kook.
Yeah. It's hard to know what to even believe with politics anymore, though, with all of those people. They change so often back and forth on, like, oh, I'm going to believe this thing versus this thing. Conservative, not conservative, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I don't really watch her anymore. So
Outside of the politics, though, I think somebody like her, it's more of the behavioral issue, and so she's got this welcoming door, right? Like, I'm married, I have kids, I'm a mother, I'm very successful. That all looks very appealing to young women, and then you hear these insane remarks or impulsive decisions, things like that. That is a type of reality TV that people are ingesting. And I think it's harmful to people, particularly young women.
Well, yeah, because even like Candace Owens and Brett Cooper and people like that, they are like our generation now. So that's who we're looking to for like our political insight and life advice and stuff like that. But they have, I feel like they're just all, it is kind of like reality TV. They're just like coming at each other. Like even with the whole Erica Kirk thing, that thing's ridiculous that she wanted all this to happen. Like that's insane. And Candace saying that does not make her
Now, do you find that
me.
more, is that entertaining to you though? I don't really care about the actual consequences and effects. Is that entertaining to you though? That she's attacking her. It's almost like WWE from what I can
think
tell.
It's entertaining. I think it's getting gaining popularity with people because they're like, oh, I like to see the drama of it. Yeah, but I don't think people are actually listening.
It's for the drama, but some people are. But that is something that, as far as I can tell, these are all baseless claims against Erica Kirk, right?
Yeah.
As far as we know.
Yeah, we don't know much about like either's.
There could be devastating life consequences to that nobody seems to care about in a way that like the Mormon wives, that's probably pretty like secluded in a bubble. Them having domestic violence issues is a lot different than labeling someone an assassin.
Yeah. Well,
but I guess the point I'm trying to make is we've come to a point in our culture where young women feel like they can get away with doing this. Is that not damaging?
Well, I think it is very damaging. But I think it's just people, especially when you have a lot of like popularity and you are so well known to people, when these claims or whatever are made, it's going to impact their lives a lot more. But nobody, us little people or people like who aren't in the public eye, don't really care. They're like, oh, they're famous, they're popular, they can fix it on their own. They're not going to actually go to jail or be punished.
I guess the point
isn't really true. But
I guess what I'm trying to get at is, at what point do we stop showing this behavior to people, and women in particular, that you can't just make wild, baseless accusations against people for the drama, because it's destroying people's lives.
A lot of men.
This is a woman issue. Reputation smearing is absolutely 1,000% a woman issue.
Reputation smearing is more of a womanly thing to do, but there's a lot of that going on. There's like, it's more mockery with men and other types of.
Well, yeah, we make fun of people.
Like that.
That's fine. We can make fun of somebody.
It's on the same level as like.
No, because when I'm mocking somebody, right?
Sometimes.
What do you mean sometimes?
I don't know.
If I see, some guy in a, dressed like a unicorn, which I sometimes see walking by our window,
yeah,
I will mock him, right? And that I'm mocking him, but I'm not going to his friends and family and, saying he's a horrible,
well, no,
PDF file or something, or starting a rumor that will ruin his life.
Though, like,
yeah, I'm just mocking him in a self-contained moment where it's like, look at that fruit.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like when you're with your friends or family or whatever, that's different than when you're saying it publicly to millions of people, which both men and women post things all the time, trying to get people in trouble because they're heated in the moment or whatever it may be.
Yeah, the men that do that are gay. Just, if you have a problem with someone, man, go up and execute a conversation with them. Let them know what's going on and figure it out if you can. If they don't want to, then there's nothing you can do about it. But I would try if as a man, if I was giving advice to a young man, I would say try and hit your problems head on, and face the music that way. You don't need to go around and call them bad names and whatever, and try and reputation smear them. That would be bad. But okay, so at the end of the day, you're in agreement with me that reality TV is smut and that it's not edifying for you. It's bad for your soul and your general well-being.
Well, yes, I'm not gonna like look up to these people. Like I said, it's just mindless entertainment,
Right?
which probably isn't.
Well, you're
good.
more grounded. You're more grounded than most women.
Yeah.
Right?
I would like to think so.
Well, that's interesting. Well, speaking of mindless content and things like that, let's talk about the podcast, because I've been having this issue lately where I've been having people come at me all over the place, sniffing around the podcast, seeing if I'm talking about them, stuff like that, especially after my work incident. Now suddenly everybody is checking to see if I'm talking about them or not or whatever. If I use somebody as an example, and sometimes it's not even like a bad example. They're just like, "Are you talking about me?" And it's like, "Oh my God." It's exhausting. Where do you sit with all this, Jolene? Because you also get some of the bleed back of that, or the fallout of that. How's it feeling knowing that you're dating a man who's in this space now, and that you're not getting like attacked by people who you don't know or whatever. You're not even getting attacked in general, but where people might talk to you or say something to you. Does that bother you? Is something that you don't like?
I think it's hard when you have a podcast or a video or whatever, and you're not super close to the person to know when they're joking versus when they're being serious, which is, I think, a lot of the issue, which most of the time it's just jokes. But I think...
Is it?
Oh, well, I thought so. Shut up. Oh, my gosh. But I think when you're just listening to something, you can't really tell, like...
There's no visual cues, verbal cues.
Yeah.
If I look at the camera like this.
A lot of times, especially with podcasts, though, people aren't watching it. So, yeah, like a lot of visual cues are left out. But also, like, again, if you're not super close to the person and you don't understand their humor, which you have a dark humor and a very certain...
Would you say I have a dry humor?
An acquired taste. A dry humor, yes. Very acquired. It took me a while. But I think it's just hard for people to understand where you're coming from or if you're joking in instances like that.
Now, when I first started this, I told you, I said, people are going to watch and they will contact you on the side.
Yeah.
You did not believe me, did you?
I don't know. I didn't think into it, really.
Well, because it happens. When I did the first iteration of this podcast back in 2019 or whatever it was, we got all that so much, and it was like things that were blatantly jokes or things that sounded like jokes, or even losing my job over a joke, stuff like that, where it was like, oh my God, like
yeah,
you start learning how to walk that line, and I think I have gotten better with talking about certain things without saying any names or whatever, right? Because when I first started, I was like, bleh. I was just vomited all over the place, every last detail and every last thing. But it's gotten to the point now where, like, I was confronted at work the other day by my boss, and I told a story about us meeting in the bathroom, and he got me thinking that I had said something really, really bad or something really embarrassing for him, I guess. But then I went back and re-listened to it, and I was like, oh. But you just see how people's nerves get with it. It's kind of a smack in the face.
Yeah.
And then for me, as someone who doesn't like confrontation but will deal with it, I'm not looking for confrontation, but
yeah.
things like that, it feels confrontational because it's like, oh shit, was I pretty nasty, or did I say something nasty, or
Yeah. Well, we kind of talked about it too, where like there's like kind of two types of people. Like if you're talking about something and that person feels like it relates to them, or it is true but they don't want to admit it, then that's gonna like strike a nerve more. Or if it's like so generalized that like it's still gonna be about a person, but you're not like calling anyone out, like such like talking about the school system or whatever. Like I get that way, even though I know you're not talking about me in certain instances. Like when you talk about something that I'm like, oh, I don't agree with that or whatever, like it can hit a nerve for some people.
And what do you think I should do to address this?
I don't know.
Should I stop doing the podcast?
No. I think just make it known that it's a generalization and not calling people out, which I don't think you usually do call anyone out.
It usually is a generalization, but some of my observations are brought into the light from hanging out with people or seeing how people respond to things or whatever, right?
Yeah.
How your family acts versus how my family acts is something that I will notice, and then because I'm an analytical guy, I'll see that contrast and I'll want to work it out in my head, but or on this, right? Sometimes when I'm doing this, it's me actually thinking in the moment and trying to work it out and trying to get an idea of what's going on. And I know I sound overly opinionated at times, but sometimes I'm really very just like kind of curious as to what's going on in that distinction or whatever it is. And I think people read it the wrong way and they go like, oh my God, this guy's like a monster, right?
He's not a monster, guys.
Well, it's not that, and I don't need your defense, but
no, I know.
I don't think I'm a monster.
You're just a very open book and vocal person, and not a lot of people are like that, and it takes some getting used to.
And it really bothers you in real life.
Sometimes, yes. Because I am not an open book vocal person.
I know.
We're opposite.
I guess I've just gotten so dead to the idea that like I embarrass people or say embarrassing things that like, even when we went to Vegas, me and my buddy Noah, I was cracking jokes in certain spots, like at a restaurant or whatever. And he was looking at me, and when he calls it back to my attention, like, whoa, I can't believe you said that. I'm like, oh, did I? Like, I didn't even realize it. But then I think back to it and I go, oh, yeah, he did look at me like, why did you say that? Right then or right there, right? I'm just not even aware of it. I'm not good at reading social cues, I suppose. I don't know. Maybe it's that.
Yeah. I don't know if it's so much about reading social cues. I think you're I think you're an entertainer.
You're retarded.
No. You're an entertainer, and I think your brain is always on like go mode, and like you always come up with like these jokes or whatever. But I feel like a lot of people aren't like that.
Do you feel like people aren't witty enough for jokes anymore?
For the older type jokes. The ones that aren't socially appreciated anymore.
Like what? Give me an example. I need an example of something that's socially not appreciated, as you said. What's not socially appreciated?
I don't know. Just like, well, like even just saying like retarded, that's like making a comeback, but that was like frowned upon for so long. Stuff like that. Or
well,
like,
yeah, it's because people
I
were
can't think of
pussies.
anything else. I don't know.
Retarded was not. I remember. Well, actually, not. This is even that long ago. But even like at work, we used to call those little refrigerators that you put the food in a restaurant or whatever. They were called retarders, and I called it that one time because we got a new one. I said, "Oh, you guys got a new retarder." Now the old guys knew what I was talking about. There was an 18-year-old there, and she looked mortified. She goes, "Why would you say that?" And my only response was, what the hell do you think I'm talking about? Like, you can literally see in this group of like 5 people, there's actually nobody Down syndrome. And you can also see that I'm not talking about an actual person. So what do you think I'm like the context clue in which this person, it was just a guttural reaction of he said the R word,
Yeah.
time to be offended. But like, obviously I was not talking to anybody. I was not calling anybody that. I was talking about an object.
Yeah.
I even opened the door and said, "Oh, this is a nice new retarder."
That is a weird name for it, but
But
I
why?
mean,
But
it's the name.
that's what disappoints me, and that's where I feel like if I can't do that, well, like it's not even that I can't do that. It's like I just don't care what that person's feelings are on anything,
Yeah.
because there's a lack of maturity in that I don't have time to deal with. Is that mean of me to be like that?
No, I don't think it's mean. Well, also, and talking about that word, there was like, I showed you that video of like the group of like Down syndrome kids and adults who are like, we want that word to be brought back. Like it wasn't used as how people are thinking it is or whatever. Like it's, and I don't know, an okay thing to
funny
say.
word.
But it's not like, you're not like, I don't know.
It's an effective word. That's the problem with it. It's an effective word. In the culture we live in now, things that are effective we don't like. We don't like effective work. We don't like effective use of words. We don't like a lot of that stuff. And so we try and make everything dumber, it seems like. Instead of being more effective, we're kind of getting dumber, right? We're on this curve. Like we hit peak evolution and smartness with humanity, and now we're like on this downward trajectory where we've created this technology that we're, as Seinfeld says, we're smart enough to create it, but too stupid to know if we should use it or not, with like AI and the robots and things like that. So, and we are actively kind of pushing ourselves out of work and things like that. Qualities out, all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I think it's more of an issue with that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Or am I just rambling?
No, I agree. We're just all, the generation today and what we become is just too sensitive with everything. And we can't openly say what is like something that would be typical when we were younger, especially when you were younger. I don't know.
Yeah, you guys,
how to word that, but
you guys don't even want to say anything controversial. Your particular generation doesn't even want to say anything controversial.
Well, because people are psychotic. Like they'll literally go crazy and like start like shooting up places and like beating people up or like keying cars or whatever just because they said something they don't agree with instead of having a conversation about it.
Yeah. I think that's a little overblown. I do. I think that's a little overblown in a way,
What do you mean?
Movers and shakers, tend to get attacked, people like Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not, they're actually trying to change something that's disruptive. People don't like that. They don't want that to happen. As far as like you going around and saying something mildly offensive or whatever, the majority of the time, nothing bad will happen to you out of that.
But I'm saying like whether it be a workplace or school or whatever, like you're going to see these people over and over again. And then it just, instead of causing a problem and having to deal with that, you want to just skate by most of the time.
No,
that's sometimes.
Because you're much more responsible than I, and you're much more agreeable than I, and then we'll close off on this topic. But why am I? Just tell me if I'm the odd duck in this, because if I don't care if they like me at the end of the day, right? I don't care if certain people like me or not, and I don't care if I have to see them every day and they know that I don't like them.
Yeah.
Where you're the exact opposite.
Yeah.
You would like the illusion that you like somebody, right? Whereas me, I've gotten just distasteful with some people in my life. Like I'm not even going to hide the fact that I don't think much of you, right? And you're a thing to me.
Yeah. I know. Well, that could be a little
I
much
know.
sometimes. I think it's okay to keep things like civil and cordial and all of
I
that.
keep
and still
it
talk to
civil.
people. I know you do, but
I
I'm
keep
saying,
it cordial.
yeah, that's where like don't want to be confrontational because I don't want to deal with it.
It
Especially
is-
at a place like where I work. Like I don't care.
Yeah, it is
it's
non-confrontational.
Somewhere I'm going to be forever. And the people, like, yeah, I like them, but like I'm not probably ever going to talk to a majority of them ever again.
I'll give you an example. There was someone I worked with a long time ago, and I thought they were a weasel and a snake.
Yeah.
And I had to work next to them because we were both management, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it just got to a point where I was just like, oh, I'm not going to talk to you about anything, and I'm not going to rely on you for anything, right? And if you need to be filled in on what's going on, you can go ahead and just talk to my manager, who is also their manager, right?
Yeah.
It was like, and some people would say, well, that's not a healthy work environment. I agree. That's probably not a healthy work environment.
Yeah.
But I know I can deal with it, and I know I can work with it. It was an issue for the other person, right? Because that was like, well, why is Anthony not including me in things? And I was honest. I said, well, I think you're a weasel.
Yeah.
I don't need you.
That seems common in a lot of your work.
If it was up to me, I would have gotten rid of the person, right? Well,
Yeah.
actually, I ended up getting rid of that person later, but,
Yeah.
But when I got up on the next step, I was like, I don't want you anymore. Bye.
Yeah.
But most people like you would not even put yourself in that situation. You would try and act like everything was fine and we're best friends, and not best friends, but friendly, I guess.
I would be friendly. I wouldn't probably act like everything's fine. If I'm like on the same level, if we're both managers or whatever, I think you can have a conversation about it. But I'm not gonna like keep fighting someone on something if they're not gonna
There was no fighting.
change. But like fighting as in like if they're not gonna change their ways, I'm not gonna keep pushing. I'm just gonna mind my own business.
It's
and
not
get by.
even pushing. I guess the best way to say how I'm trying to think of a good analogy. It's kind of like how you just brush past an old person at the grocery store. It's just something in your way.
Oh my gosh.
When you're hungry and you just got off of work and you got to get all your groceries real quick to make your dinner.
Yeah.
And there's like an old woman standing there, looking at every can of beans. And you're like, you're not trying to be rude and you're not trying to be confrontational, but you rudely just step in front of them and grab what you need, right? You already locked in.
Yeah.
You already know what aisle you're on. You already know what kind of beans you want.
Yeah.
And they're like sitting there looking at it like it's, the original copy of the Ten Commandments. Okay. Like, you need to fucking get out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's the best way. It's like, I'm not going to like elbow her or, give her a knock in the head or be like, hey, you old bitch, get out of the way. I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to get what I need to get done.
Yeah.
Even if it comes across as rude.
Yeah.
Look out, old ladies. You gotta make sure you're out of my way.
Yeah. Don't go to the grocery store when Anthony goes.
You've seen me, though.
Yeah, but
you
it's
have
not
seen
rude,
me.
though.
There's
It's
times
just
where
like
it's
you're
just
doing
like,
your own thing.
I'm like, boom, 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 zoom, zoom,
Yeah.
zoom. Right?
I don't think
I'm a
that's
man
rude,
on a
though.
mission. I don't have time while you read every Bush's baked bean label. See how much sodium's in it. I can be like that at work, too. Is that a bad thing?
No.
If only everybody could see the faces she's making at me.
I don't think that's a bad thing. Well, especially at work. You're there to do your job. You're not there to make friends. Like, you can make friends in the process, but like if you don't agree with someone and the way they're running things, or if they're a crappy manager, then why would you're going to do your job and do what you need to do and not necessarily not care what the other person or people are doing, but like you're still going to listen to them and respect like the title and everything, but that doesn't mean they deserve the title and they're doing things right.
Yeah. Well, good point. Oh, I forgot to say this before we wrap up. I brought up that you were Catholic and whatnot. And what did you give up for Lent?
Shut up.
I wanted to know. I brought it up and I never swung back to it.
A rule in our household, I don't know if it's a Catholic rule or just I was going to say my last name. Our rule is on Sundays we can do whatever we gave up. Because it's like 40 days.
But what precisely did you give up?
I gave up streaming services.
Services.
That's why I've only watched 2 episodes of Mormon Wives because I only watch them on Sundays.
I know. And what a blasphemous thing to do on the Lord's Day.
Because
to watch smut.
Let me hear it. The reasoning that we can do it on Sundays is that Sundays aren't included in the 40 days. And you're supposed to give something up for 40 days. So it's a loophole. And we probably shouldn't do it, but No
backbone.
At least I gave
Giving
something
Catholics
up.
a bad name.
Whatever.
Wait, but why would you give up? Because you predominantly only stream reality shows. So why would you give that up?
Well, one reason I gave it up is because I'm in the middle of studying, so it helps me focus on that more. And the other reason is because I was getting in the habit of watching too much TV.
What?
And I wanted to do
it's not you're just
better.
watching. It's non-edifying.
I don't just watch reality TV. I watch sitcoms. I watch a lot of sitcoms.
You're watching a lot of reality TV.
What else?
Because it's bad for your
Traders
soul.
doesn't
And you
count.
know it.
Traders
and you know
great.
It was bad for your soul.
That's a game show.
You know
we
it's
watch
bad.
sitcoms and game shows, and rarely reality TV. Although I did just watch Too Hot to Handle. But
oh my God. Okay.
That one is actually really dumb. I probably shouldn't watch that one.
They're all
but
really
I
dumb.
Still will. Yeah. But I can say I'll try not to, but I probably will still end up watching it. So might as well not lie.
But it's not good for your soul, though.
No.
Right?
It's good for hard days when I want to
it's probably
check out.
Immoral and it might be dumbing you down, right? Anyway.
Whatever. He watches them too. Don't let him fool you.
No, I don't. When do I watch them?
He sneaks some peeks when I'm watching it sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, guys. If there's a girl's fat ass on the screen in a thong, I might sneak a peek. Sorry. I don't need to watch why it's out or how it ends.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, I feel like we all know how it ends. Anyway, all right. Well, thank you very much, Jolene. So as a good Catholic, you gave up reality TV because you know it's bad for your mortal soul.
Yep.
Good. Well, see, there's a lesson to be learned there. All right. Well, thanks for coming on. We'll be back soon. Thank you very much. This is, oh, wait. You got to follow us and like and subscribe and all that crap, right?
Yeah. Spotify and YouTube.
You have anything to plug? You want to plug anything?
Just follow the ACT podcast.
Oh, okay.
On what do you have it on? Instagram?
It's on everything. But
Twitter.
anyway, everything but Blue Sky. I got to get on Blue Sky still. Anyway, all right. Well, thank you very much. This is the ACT